Let us look at the Gaza Defense humanitarian crisis. As you know, an 8-truck accident kills 20 near in Nusayrat refugee camp in Gaza amid growing depression, because people are being called to collect the food and they are under bombing. Is it a new kind of killing innocent women, children and human?
I mean, whenever we speak about Gaza, whenever Gaza comes up, nothing really makes sense. The brutality in Gaza that we've seen is not comparable to anything else during our lifetimes. I mean, we've heard of, pogroms in Soviet Russia, Pol Pot's regime in Cambodia, but even then those had limited time periods, but Gaza's been unimaginably brutal. I mean, in every sense of the word, there's been genocide in Gaza for the last few years. And probably even before that, it was, sort of many instances. But the last few years, I mean, they've razed almost all of Gaza to the ground. I mean, because the IDF, the Israeli Defense Force, they feared, urban warfare, because urban warfare is difficult. I mean, we've seen in the Battle of Stalingrad and whatnot, or even, like in many, in the Yugoslav wars and whatnot, even in the current Ukraine war, how difficult urban warfare is. So the idea of solution to the difficulties of urban warfare was just demolishing all of that urbanity. So every sort of town, every building has been razed to the ground. So Gaza ceases to exist as a proper place of habitation. And I mean, thousands upon thousands, tens of thousands have been killed, I mean, without any regard to any moral qualm, to any sort of international law, to anything. And yet we see the world silent. We can, I mean, from where we stand in Bangladesh, there's not much we can do. We don't have trade with Israel. We don't have any other sort of, and we're too far away to be, of any help to the silent martyrs of Gaza. But the rest of the world, especially, I mean, raising their voices against the US. I mean, the European Union, they talk about morality, they talk about, justice, rules-based world, and they stand silent. Nobody moves anything. The Middle East, I mean, all the Islamic countries, I mean, again, Iran has fought its battles, and it has, it has its wounds. It's licking its wounds right now. Iraq has been destabilized so badly that Iraq ceases to be a truly functioning state over the last decade or so. Look at Syria. So I think, I mean, it was, I mean, from 95 onwards, a concerted effort on the part of Netanyahu and his party. And Netanyahu since 95 has been, for a majority of the period, the prime minister of Israel. So there's been a concerted effort from their end that American foreign policy goes a certain way, where the Middle East is so poor, been so destabilized that if and when this sort of a genocidal attack happens, that sort of all of Israeli borders, you just wipe out the existence of a Palestine, wipe out the existence of any Palestinians, as in sort of large-scale genocide, and that's what has happened. So the only couple of countries that could, I mean, Jordan, Egypt, and Saudi Arabia, they are focused more on their own economies or on their own security. And so even though sometimes Saudi Arabia will raise a voice and say, this shouldn't happen, that shouldn't happen, but they're dealing with, the Saudi regime is dealing with Israel.
Just formalities.
Yes, it is just a formality. It is just a soundbite, no more than a soundbite. Because I find it very hard to believe that even if the Middle East, if the countries in the Middle East see this as an important issue and bond over this issue, because you see, what people keep on forgetting is, sort of that old dialogue that first they came for the communists and I didn't stop them, then they came for so and so. And now the point is, Israel is going to wipe out Palestine. That has more or less already happened. But Israel sees the relationship, the state of Israel, at least, Zionists, they see the relationship between Jews and Muslims as a clash as a civilizational clash, if you will, which, when I know the US foreign policy made this a civilizational clash in the 90s and whatnot, but that's not what I'm talking about. But, Zionists believe their primary enemies are Muslims, not Palestinians, Muslims. Palestinians is for the land, it's Muslims. So if Saudi Arabia, Jordan, Syria, Iraq, Iran, Egypt, everybody keeps on forgetting this crucial point, that once the Zionists have all of, they've taken Palestine, they've destabilized the Middle East, what's the next step? The next step is to destabilize their states as well, because again, for Zionists who are running Israel, this is a civilizational conflict. So it's me or you. It's not a non-zero sum game where we can both exist together, so on and so forth. And again, I'm not talking about Jews here, I'm talking about Zionists. So, and Zionists are running Israel. Whatever is happening in Palestine, the genocide and whatnot, Zionists are responsible for this, not all Jews. So, till the countries in the Middle East get a grasp of this basic ideological truth, nobody's going to stand against Israel. And if they don't get a grasp of this basic ideological truth, very soon their existence will be as much in question as is Palestine's today.
How should the international community or the media respond to urgent issues like healthocide? Healthocide. I mean, healthocide is a new word used by Washington Post. There is nothing left for health, like genocide, like homicide, healthocide, escalating in conflict the Jones.
Yeah, I mean, again, the world, it seems, we have come to a point in our civilization where technology has surpassed anything we could have ever imagined before. And, if you will, let's go back to Karl Marx now, a century and a half ago. Karl Marx, many of his ideas, historical materialism and whatnot, might not have worked out the way he imagined them. But he did imagine a world where technology matures where it has today, and humanity achieves some sort of an utopia. Because you see, we have the resources today that nobody anywhere, be that in the African savannah or wherever, nobody has to go hungry. Everybody can have, the minimum necessities fulfilled for life. And not just for life, but for a reasonably good life. So, but instead of doing that, we have, Elon Musk's who are worth $200 billion plus. I mean, you go to, Mumbai and you see, a $2 billion plus home of Mukesh Ambani's family, the Antilla, and next to that you have slums. I mean, right next to. You see because I've seen photos. I've never visited Mukesh Ambani's house, but I do have friends who are friends with them and their neighbors. So I have seen photos from some of Mukesh Ambani's the Antilla, that building's balconies and what are windows, which actually shows slums, which is the predicament that we're in this world. And so, there was a point in time, a few thousand years ago, when torture itself was a science. Part of military science, torture itself was a science. So, how to inflict pain upon somebody, things like the Raging Bull and, the Iron Maiden and so on and so forth, how to inflict pain on somebody. But I believe in this age of technology where Marx's utopia could actually have been achieved, we are seeing rather more more inimical creations, machinations that are going into production of pain, but at a massive scale. Genocide and things like your healthocide and whatnot that you're pointing out, where in places like Gaza, where first and foremost, on one end you're just killing people outright, and then those that are barely alive, you're depriving them of food, and sometimes when you are providing them with food, you are putting in some sort of strange drugs and whatnot into, I mean, which has been already proven by multiple, I mean, Al Jazeera and other, sort of journalists, that they have been putting, sort of some sorts of, sort of pills and medications, mixing it with the sort of, if you will, sacks of flour and wheat and whatnot. So the bare minimum that is, sort of reaching these starving masses are still being inundated with stuff that would kill them eventually. So this level of infliction of pain, I think, is a new low for humanity. And this is being done, unfortunately, under the watch of one superpower. Because we are, sort of, I mean, we are in a unipolar world still. China's rising, Russia's trying to fight, but still it's an America-led unipolar world. And it is, while this huge democracy, the United States of America, unilaterally polices the world, it is during this particular time that the most inhumane infliction of pain to the masses is being meted out. This is going to be recorded in history for the future.
What you see, any hope in coming days in Bangladesh, because country is heading into a democracy?
Oh, I see. I am very, very hopeful for Bangladesh. I mean, I was sad and, sort of for many other places, but I'm very, very hopeful for Bangladesh. I mean, the election date more or less has been announced. Day before yesterday, the Honorable Chief Advisor announced the election date, and political parties have already started working. I mean, the BNP-led coalition, we have all started working on, sort of who our candidates are going to be and how. Other parties that have even, sort of opposed this declaration of election, Jamaat-e-Islami, Islami Andolon and NCP. I don't consider them a party really, but anyway, these parties, even them who have opposed, they've also started work internally, preparing for the election. So I think once election preparation, which has already started, once this gets some momentum, everything else is just incidental. So February elections, then nation building.
Thank you very much. Thank you, both of you gentlemen.